Welcome back to the final lesson in our foundation track. Today we discuss data ownership and activation with Rohrman Auto Group. We speak to Ryan Rohrman and Jeremy Allen alongside Patrick from Snowflake. They share their powerful journey and results from owning their data.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Mike Anderson. I'm the founder and CTO at Tealium. We are having our webinar today around the topic of owning your data with Rohrman Auto Group, Snowflake, and Tealium. Gentlemen, I want to go around the horn a little bit and do some introductions. Ryan, why don't we start with you? Talk a little bit about the journey you've been on for Rohrman Auto Group.
Yeah, no, hey, Mike, thanks for having me on today. So my name's Ryan Rohrman. I'm the dealer principal and president of the Rohrman Automotive Group. So we have 22 rooftops throughout the Midwest, Chicago, Lafayette, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, a little bit into southern Wisconsin. And yeah, I mean, briefly, we have been on a journey of owning our data for almost a year now, and it's been interesting and fun, and we've learned a ton. And we got great partners. Tealium's been amazing, and Snowflake also is another partner of ours. But looking forward to discussing that more. But it's been quite the journey so far, and it's been a good one too. So,
Jeremy, you're up.
Jeremy Allen, Sales, Digital Retailing, and Implementation Director for the Rohrman Automotive Group. I am here to make sure that Ryan's vision comes to life and just make sure that I can keep up with his pace and learn along the way. This past 8 months has been quite the journey for us as we've heard new terms, new acronyms, and new partnerships with folks that are not really inside of the auto industry. So Tealium and Snowflake, this is going to be a fun journey.
There's a new saying going around called founder mode here at Tealium, where we talk about just owning everything and getting your hands dirty and getting in and solving problems. And so I know what it's like to create ripples downstream for the other employees, where it's like, guys, we got to get some stuff done. Patrick, bring us home here on introductions and we'll get rolling.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. So I'm on the Snowflake side. I actually manage the alliances with many of our marketing partners, including Tealium. Been at Snowflake for about 2 years, really focused on growing the ecosystem to unlock use cases for our thousands of clients who are interested in leveraging Snowflake as a core part of their marketing technology. I spent 5 years at a CDP as well, and so understand that space and built an ecosystem there, and so understand sort of how this fits together, and have had the opportunity to work with hundreds of clients and dozens of great partners, to unlock use cases like this.
It's for me, this is actually really exciting times in the world of data, especially with Snowflake has really come on so strong, so fast. But it really, in my opinion, has kind of completed that architecture for customer data that gives companies the opportunity to really own a lot of their destiny around customer data. I take heat from my team because they say it's too stuck in the 80s. But when I think about the value that Tealium and Snowflake together provide to our customers, I think about the modern computer, and I think about hard drive and RAM. And Snowflake for me is that lifetime customer data warehouse. That's the hard drive where we store everything. And Tealium is that RAM where we're collecting the data in real time and we're using information from the hard drive to influence those real-time experiences. And when we move into the automotive industry, this is something that really needs both, because we have a situation where you guys are not the Gap, right? I'm not buying a pair of khakis every single day from you guys, right? This is something where I'm buying a car. Some time goes by. You've got opportunities for service in between there, but you really need both sides of that data spectrum. You need that lifetime view of the customer, so you understand when is Mike ready to buy the next car, or when is Mike ready for service next. But then once you move Mike into that funnel of what you're trying to get me to do, whether it be whether it be going through the service or buying that new car, then you use the power of the CDP to move me through the funnel. So it honestly, it's the perfect recipe here that I see, and it's really a perfect industry to showcase both. But starting with that, Ryan, why don't you give us a little bit of the overview of some of the challenges of the automotive industry and again, the risks of dirty data.
Yeah, so every single dealer in the United States, we can all agree on a few things. And so we can all agree on is you need a DMS and you need a CRM. And so for years, those two pieces of tech have really been the brains of everything we do. It's where we store our data, and then the CRM. It's where we activate and we engage with our consumers. And so what we found though is that the data is bad. And so it's really because of multiple things. It's either input is bad from our employees, or potentially input is bad from customers giving us bad data. On top of that, you also have consumers change. They don't have the same car that they bought 10 years ago. I still think it's kind of interesting. I still get marketing from the first car that I bought my wife back in 2010. And I've had 7 or 8 or 10 cars since that car. And that dealer group is still sending me, it's not my dealer group, it's still sending me marketing material to come and either service or trade the car in. And so that is where we found, issue number one. So after we partnered with Tealium, we decided, hey, we have to make sure, we got to see what we're working with here. We got to see what type of data we have and how clean is it. And so we did that. And we had just shy of 2 million files. We went about 5 to 7 years back. And we found that 48% of our data was actually clean data. And it blew my mind, and mainly because auto dealers, we love advertising. We do a lot of it. We spend a lot of money in advertising. A common term in auto is like when we advertise, we do either like spray and pray or shotgun. We really don't know, another quote that I heard was, we know that 50% of our advertising works. We just don't know what 50% is working and the other that's not working, And so it's just really interesting that no one has ever done anything about that. It's really, because the crazy thing to me is as I've learned more about data lakes and CDPs, I've realized this is not new technology. This has been out for a long time. But inside of the automotive space, it's like the shiny new thing right now. And, we're adapting to it. So with that being said, we cleansed our data and then we enriched our data. And so right around June of 2024, we actually started marketing to clean data. And I'm telling you, it was wild. The results were amazing. I mean, it actually worked. And it wasn't 50-50. We were seeing everything get better while at the same time our spend actually go down because we weren't marketing to the same monster pool. We were marketing to, hey, we know that person still owns that car. We know that this is the address that it's actually registered to. We know that X, Y, and Z, right? So once we knew all those things, then you can start putting great technology like AI, machine learning on top of that. And we actually start to what does that consumer want to see and when do they want to see it? And so we started going down that journey middle of the summer. And, I just did a State of the Union kind of presentation for our 1,600 employees that we have. And it was really interesting. So we're still learning, but we actually saw our lead counts, or opportunities go up inside of Q4 versus what we saw in Q2. And in the Midwest, that's not normal. Our our big selling season is always the summer months. We have, it's been 0 degrees where I live the last couple of days. I mean, it definitely affects car business, but we saw an increase in leads and opportunities inside of Q4 because we started to own our data and we were using clean data and not, we're done with the shotgun advertising and the spray and pray and not knowing which side works. We know which side works now. And it starts with clean data, but then the partnership of, well, with Tealium, we're going to push that data in and it's going to tell us what we need to do with it. And then we can activate it and get it out. And that's been a great process. It works. But that's kind of been our journey in short over the last 8 to 10 months of just really the power of clean data. I do want to say this too. This is the partnership with Snowflake. So inside of the DMS, inside of a dealership, we're not able to write back clean data. I don't have an exact reason why. There's some legalities with that apparently, but it doesn't matter which DMS you're using. You cannot write back clean data. So after we cleansed and enriched our data, we had to do something with it. And so that's where our relationship with Snowflake really blossomed. And it became, we refer to our Snowflake as our single source of truth. So we push everything to Snowflake, and then using their Snowpipe, we push it to Tealium. And I'm telling you, it's if you don't have that single source of truth, you're missing out on it. And what we're able to do with Snowflake's marketplace in terms of getting more unique users, enriching, cleansing data, all without having to move the data. Every time you move data, it's dangerous, and so the power of Snowflake Marketplace is we don't need to move it. It all happens in there. And then we can do something with it. So that's the automotive space in a nutshell of just, we all have dirty data, but we need a place to put it that's clean. And then we need a partner that can tell us what to do with it so that we can activate it and it works.
Amen, my friend. Amen. There is no shame in cutting bait on a stale lead, on a bad lead. I think this is a mind shift for marketing, right? A lot of them just want ever growing lists, but the reality is we're in a time of efficiency. We're in a time of every dollar of spend matters, and people are putting a lot more KPIs on the performance of businesses and saying, look, we're going to spend $1. I want to make 10. Figure out how to do that. It's not just, hey, I've got 50 billion, I've got 50 billion leads in my database. Awesome. That's a little bit more than the people on the planet, but it's great that that's such a big number. But that's it's an amazing testament to seeing the vision of where the future is. We have a college that just by removing marketing to their existing on-campus students and online students, they're saving millions of dollars a year. And I'll be honest with you, we're starting to see better experiences from the consumer side, right? And we set the bar really high. DoorDash gets food to our doorstep as fast as we want it. We can watch any piece of video content that we absolutely want to watch at our fingertips. We got high-speed Wi-Fi on planes now, right? We have choices. And so now is the time where experience matters. And I see disconnected experiences all the time out there with companies. And I think you guys really need to get your act in gear, because you're going to lose if you're sending irrelevant emails out, or you're showing me messages that are not relevant. You guys are in a challenging spot too as well, coming through COVID and going through, and I'm going off script here, but coming off COVID, we've gone to a remote first lifestyle where You may have people that are still driving, but people that are not driving as much. And now it's, do I keep doing these? Hey, Mike, it's time for you to buy a new car. Actually, I'm working out of my house, and so I'm driving about 20% of the miles that I used to drive. But with you guys having opportunities to hook into the service portion of the relationship, you guys can keep tabs on, like, Mike's driving this many miles. We know exactly when he's ready for a new car. And that's what, and again, these are dreams that people used to have and be like, yeah, forget about that. That's impossible. It's possible now with the power of companies like Snowflake and with Tealium and the right mindset and the right people that are motivated. This is really a possibility that's out there. And so it's very exciting times. Patrick, jumping to you. Let's talk about some of your data cloud components. And again, how do you see this? And when I talk about it, I say, like, look, I use the power of Snowflake to figure out what the next funnel is for my customer, and then I integrate that information over to Tealium to say, now Tealium, go use your real-time capabilities to get them through that funnel as fast and as efficiently as we can.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, well, before I jump into that, Mike, I'd love to, just comment on some of the stuff that Ryan said. I think what was kind of really powerful and what stood out to me is just this concept of owning your data. And I think, it can sound sort of, simple when you say it, but I think one of the business complexity of actually making that happen is not trivial. And I think it is something that has actually been a really big shift in the entire market in terms of how they think about using solutions in the marketing space. If I look back to 2017, 2018, when sort of I began my journey in this space and working in a marketing solution, many customers were essentially copying their data, sending it over to a large number of different solutions for marketing outcomes. And different solutions that you work with may either have rights to that data, you have various abilities to sort of change that or copy it in different places. But to your point, with some of your experiences with a DMS, you can be extremely limited, and you may not even be able to write back to it. So that concept of owning your data has really been a huge shift in how a lot of marketing teams are thinking about how they ultimately are able to drive the types of targeted, really personalized experiences that they want. So when I look at the marketing space today, and I think about how do companies, how do organizations get to this place where they're actually able to own their data? I think some of the capabilities of Snowflake become really, really critical there. And so, our history is really around being a data infrastructure and allowing customers to deploy use cases around things like data warehouse and data engineering and analytics. What we're seeing increasingly and what we're seeing today, though, is applications like Tealium are actually building their application in a way that you can reduce that data movement that you talked about, so that you don't have to copy data back and forth. Again, it allows the organization to really own that data and then leverage those solutions in a seamless way. And so Snowflake in this way provides that unified scalable platform that can drive those types of applications and outcomes. It gives you the performance that you need to do that in a seamless way, and to allow Tealium to still maintain that real-time customer journey. And so often, I know, Mike, you had a great example around, Snowflake as the hard drive and Tealium as the RAM. I think another way to think about it is Snowflake, and excuse my pun here, is more of an engine there, right, in driving that outcome. And I think of Tealium really as the steering wheel, the ability to take and direct a lot of those activities to, and a lot of times the marketers are not spending a lot of time in Snowflake. Their primary UI is going to be Tealium, even though Snowflake is that core engine that's sitting behind and driving a lot of those outcomes. So, when I think about Snowflake and how it really combines with a solution like Tealium, it is that unified, scalable platform that can deliver a lot of these marketing use cases and ultimately really allow the brand, the organization to really recapture and own their data such that they can get those personalized experiences.
Amen. Amen. I love it. I love it. I love this topic so much. And the other thing that I think has been that this will be very valuable to the listeners is even though we're talking about some very complicated things, owning customer data, owning customer data profiles, triggering the right message in the right moment, having all the lifetime storage, having the engine behind you and steering your way through the experience. I feel like with the power of Snowflake, and with the things that we do at Tealium, we're starting to give companies a blueprint of a little bit simpler architecture that they need out there for their data infrastructure. I've seen so many diagrams over the years where it's just this microprocessor with all these lines drawn to it, and it was so complicated. Now when you come in and say, look, all of our data goes here, this is our engine, this is where we do almost everything, and this is where we store everything, and then we've got these other solutions out here that we connect to make sure that the experiences are great. It starts to make this more understandable for companies to say, like, this is not, I don't need to be an MIT PhD to be able to figure out how to launch this stuff and how to work it. Now, you guys might be MIT PhDs, and that would be amazing. But the idea is like we've got some really solid infrastructure. And when you start adding like a visualization layer on top of that, where you're starting to not only own your own data, but you're starting to own maybe your own analytics, maybe your own reporting on top of that. Now, Patrick, you got the windshield, right? Where you can see everything that's coming. So the idea behind that is that it starts to simplify the architecture because the tools that are supporting these customers have gotten so much better and so much stronger, and they're so purpose driven. And as we move into more of a consent world, I don't want to have my data in 50 different places because that starts to become a privacy and consent liability. And so, I know it wasn't on the prep, but Ryan or Jeremy, like, how does consent weigh into this for you guys and data privacy of your customers?
Yeah, so that's it. It's a great question. And the easiest way to answer that is it depends how we're communicating with our customer. The hardest one is text. Texting it's also the best. The stat that I saw is 93% of texting gets an eyeball on it. I mean, that stat is huge, right? There's no other marketing that I know of that you could say, 9.3 out of 10 times it goes out, the consumer sees your message. Like, that's great. But it's also the highest regulated in our industry. And so we know it works, but you got to have that opt-in for marketing. And so it's also the least used. So, that's it. So some of this for inside of automotive, because I know it's not always true to say that everything I'm going to say is true across all industry types, right? But inside of automotive, we're slowly making processes where the consumer is able to opt in so we can do that. And I think what you said, Mike, is really interesting because we can make this really complex, but it gets simplified. And I think it's always good to ask the question, why? And the why for us is consumer experience. Like, this is all driving consumer experience in an upward way. I mean, it's making consumer experience awesome. And that's what we're trying to do because it's such a competitive space. Not just automotive, all retail industry is competitive. And so consumer experience, even with regulation of text messaging, I want to deliver the text to you not 2 weeks early, not 2 weeks late, but within the window that you want to get it on the topic that you want to receive. And that's true with everything: email, a phone call, Meta, OTT. I mean, we're activating all that stuff with Tealium right now. And so, regulation on emails are pretty wide open still. Direct mail is very wide open. We don't do much of that. OTT is pretty unregulated for us. Definitely some minor regulations in calls. But the main regulation that we have to, and you're not going to overcome it. It's an internal process that we have to adapt and change to create a why. Like, why would the consumer want to opt in to get my message? And the answer is because I'm not going to overuse it. I'm going to get it to you only when you need it, and so on and so forth. So that, I don't know, Jeremy, if there's anything else you'd put on top of that, but that's the regulation struggle is texting for us, and it's also the best outlet as well.
I think Ryan covered it very well. And for us, we will tend to see about 70% of our customers will opt in to receive some form of messaging when they inquire about a vehicle. And it's making sure on the user that if the customer calls into the dealership, that we send them out some sort of information that requires them to say, yes, I opt in to receive this. And we have a couple of platforms partners that provides the customer with very thorough information that the very first thing that it'll do is it'll say, opt in to receive this message. And if they do, great. Now we can go ahead and continue to communicate with them going forward.
I think our nature is to actually want to. No, we're not European. They may be a little bit different, but the nature is to say, you know what, I'm okay for opting in. I'm okay for giving data because I want to have a good relationship. We give a lot of information to Apple and Google and Netflix and Hulu and all these different vendors because we have an excellent value exchange. And Ryan, you said it right. Like, can't send it too early, can't send it too late, can't send the wrong message. You know as well as I do that if you guys have a use case that says, hey, we want everybody to opt out, perfect. Just spam them with texts nonstop, right? Guaranteed. So the idea is, right? It's that relationship, and in some cases, this is where again, when we talk about the simplification of the customer data architecture. I used the term last night with my team with using Snowflake as a backstop, right? The reality is I don't have 50 different systems all saying like, hey, I just saw a new customer. I'm going after him with my system. Hey, I just saw a new customer. I'm going after him with my system. Because you know what? That uncoordinated view of the customer experience, you know what it leads to? It leads to overblown experiences coming to the customers, and it just results in an opt-out. And so there is that power and I'm so happy to see, because 10 years ago, 5 years ago, CDWs weren't real commonplace with customers out there. Now everybody sees the value. Everybody knows that they need that to win. And so now it's just completion of the architecture for me that like we have everything. And so it's I don't know. I'm super fired up, as you guys can see, but let's jump into are there any specific use cases you guys want to talk about that you guys have been doing that are notable, or is that too much secret sauce?
I'll tell you my favorite one, and then I'll pass it to Jeremy. So like I love stats, and and then trying to find where that low-hanging fruit is. And so the whole concept of abandoned shopping cart, it's probably one of my favorite ones inside of automotive. Our completion rate as an industry is terrible. And it doesn't matter if it's like a VDP, doesn't matter if it's for scheduling service, it doesn't matter if it's filling out a credit app. A really good completion rate is like 30%. And so the problem is in the automotive space, we have not been able to know, we didn't even know that, number one. Number two, that's 70%. 70% of our potential customer base is interacting with our websites, and we can't do anything to help them. And to me, that number is just crazy. I mean, everything we do is to drive people to our websites. Everything we do is to drive people to our websites. And yet we only get to see 30% of the results of that. I mean, that's insane. And so the ability to have the Tealium tag on all our forms, we're starting to ingest that now. And now we're able to, Jeremy sent me something this morning and it was awesome. It was a BDC center calling the customer and saying, hey, customer name, I see you stopped halfway through filling out your service inquiry. Can I help you finish that? I mean, that's powerful. I mean, the reason people stop filling out forms is not because it's not always because they want to stop. It's because their boss comes in, they got to put their phone down. Their kid needs them. They put their phone, whatever. There's a million reasons why, right? But that you lose track of it. Even today, I've probably started 15 different search engines that I did not answer my question, and like, will I go back to those? I don't know. We'll see how many of them use a CDP and it'll send me an email and I probably will. So like I think that so far has been my favorite, is uh, because the numbers are so big, we can start to effectively market to 70% more that are already responding to our marketing message. They're already on our website. I don't need to go out and get more. They're there already. It's huge. So I love the abandoned shopping cart uh, customer. It's my favorite audience type so far.
Jeremy, what's your favorite?
Right now, I would say that it's the abandoned digital retailing tool because it can allow me to follow up with that customer uniquely once everything is aligned. I heard the term micro audiences, and a micro audience is somebody that we used to not be able to market to in the way that we would desire. So with Meta and Google, you need to have usually around 1,000 consumers to be able to target that customer. And it's a very broad message that you're sending. It's the same message to all of those customers. But with a micro audience, I'm now able to identify a smaller group of consumers that went and did X, Y, and Z on the website, and I can tailor that message to what actions they took on the website. And so what was really cool about yesterday was we brought a majority of our director team together. And we had your team joined us in Chicagoland, and we had an audience building session. And for me, it was very exciting because I was able to look back at a board, and from where I thought of maybe 10 to 12, and I started to stall out, it grew to 30 plus different audiences. And it's like, okay, now we can build all of these and we can build content that's supportive to every single one of those. And what's important to one service director in one region could also apply to another director in another region. And now we're all going to be sending the same unique type of messages for each one of those individual audiences, not worrying about, hey, we have to send it to 1,000 people and they may or may not be in the market for X, Y, and Z. But now I can target them specifically on the actions that took place on our website, looking at the dynamic fields of the year, make, model of however many vehicles that they did look at on the website and service that customer the right way without being overbearing.
Yeah, it's exciting times, Patrick. You've been in software a while, as have I. This is an exciting moment to be at a vendor that we used to do things that help people optimize kind of their job internally, or some more efficiency internally. But the power of Snowflake, I see Snowflake driving so much effective change and efficiency within businesses by really letting them think outside the box and dream big about what they can do with their customers, because data is so powerful. I mean, you have to be thrilled about that stuff. But talk to me about Snowflake and some of the big value adds in automotive that you guys are really seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even if you think about the two use cases that Ryan and Jeremy talked about, right? So, abandoned cart and the complexity of actually making something like that happen. You need to know that the customer is on your site. You actually need to know who that customer is. And if you have access to them in some other way through either email or SMS, like we talked about before, you need to know what they were doing on that site. You need to know, is there a customer service representative who's reached out to them before? You need to know, are they in a journey in terms of, a buying cycle and some other, if they recently had a service visit. So there's a ton of background and history that you ideally would want to know about that customer to then have the most targeted follow-up. So in order to actually be able to drive that abandoned cart, you have to build that data, that underlying understanding of your customer, and then be able to actually act on it. And then when you think about something like a micro audience, right? Similarly, you need to have a lot of granular detail about the historical behavior of all of these customers and those different touch points and their experiences. And you, in a perfect world, want to bring that all together so that when you are creating and crafting that message, you're able to do it in the most effective way. And even down to, well, what channel do I want to deliver this message? Is SMS going to be the path? Is it email? Is it another channel that I want to deliver that? All of that could actually be brought together, and making those things happen gets, obviously extremely complex. And so you do need the power of a really scalable platform to bring all of that data together. And then you need an application that can allow you to connect those dots in a really seamless way and actually deliver that message on the right channel at the right time. So, it's an example. I think those two use cases are great examples of why having Snowflake underlying these marketing applications can give you some of the insights and the data to drive that personalized experience. So anyway, I think when you think about Snowflake in terms of what it's doing in the marketing space, it really is around unlocking access to that data. It also, when you get into consent, privacy, and governance, a key thing about Snowflake's history is consent. Well, privacy and governance has always been at the core of the application. And, consent is brought in from those customers. You're able to connect that directly to those individual profiles and leverage that in a seamless way within Tealium as well. And so those are some of the things that I think are really driving value and really unlocking things for customers here.
I think we're coming to a time where we get to kind of the holy grail of customer experience, where we get to audiences of one, right? Where you've given me such unique input as a consumer that I have a very customized audience and customized experience, right? You may be the exact Jeremy and I may be the exact same from a profile, but he may like SMS and I may prefer email as a touch point. And so we get to that audience of one. And Ryan, part of the thing that I've been telling since I founded this thing, this has always been about widening the bottom of the funnel, doing more. Anybody can go shove more into the top, right? We can double everything and quadruple everything and just get so many more people coming through the front door. But if we're not optimizing the bottom of the funnel, then we're not really gaining on this. But if we can figure out how to build an engine and widen the bottom of the funnel and get to where our experience rules, and it's not as complicated once you get the right partners and once you get the right tools in there. But once you start widening the bottom of the funnel, then Mr. Marketer, Mrs. Marketer, have at it. Go expand your list, shove as much as you can into that top of the funnel, because I'm proud of the engine. Our engine may not be, your engine is sitting at like 30% and you're missing out on 70%. Think if you could flip that, you would say, go spend, go get me customers, because you know what? I got a 7 in 10 chance of converting them now, and I'm happy with what that does for my business.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And that's one thing that I was actually thinking about the funnel when I was with some of your team members the last 2 days, because historically in auto, we've never wanted the fringy customers. It was too much work. It was too much work to pull them down, and so we would always, and that funnel gets so tight, at the bottom, and that's where we all compete for those customers. And customer experience is bad because every dealer and their brother bought the same list and is paying the same people, and they're getting blown up from every angle, right? And I think with this relationship, it changes all that. I like your example. It definitely widens the bottom of that funnel, and potentially, I don't even know if this shapes the funnel anymore. It might just be a cylinder, because we want to get as much on the top as we do on the bottom. And historically, we just couldn't handle that. It's too much. There's too much data. But now you can, like you said, you can put as much as you want in the top because you have this relationship of Snowflake to Tealium. It's doing all the heavy lifting. And then your activation, which when we say activation, I just love the word experience, the consumer experience is the activation. It's coming down that funnel or cylinder, and it's unique. It's unique to them. And I do believe that that keeps them more loyal to whoever it is that's marketing to them. So in this example, they're loyal to the Rohrman Auto Group, because man, that experience is unique. I'm not going to go to these third-party marketplaces. I don't need to, because oddly enough, when I think of that I need something, it's there, and then I'm not spamming or deleting because they're not overusing it. Man, my experience is great. I'm going right down the side of that funnel, and the floor is huge because of how much data you're dealing with now at the top. It opens it all up, and yeah, I think you nailed it. I love that concept of widening the funnel at the bottom, because it's true. That's what it's doing. Yeah.
It is. I mean, I've been saying it for years. It's so much easier to double revenue if I can get more out of what I already have. And now the beautiful part about it is that in this, in this old time where it would just be, I would buy so many lists and I would get so much data, and I would get a lot of fringe customers that, what, some of those things are really hard to make sense of. And now we're getting to the point where, as you start to grow, and you said it, the perfect funnel is a cylinder. But as you start to widen it out and as you start to get more data through, you have a bigger engine now with tools like Snowflake, and having that real-time interaction data in there. Now with the capabilities of AI, we have the ability to even learn more and even put more experiences that are more nuanced, because we have more information coming in, not just higher bounce rates, right? Which a lot of people, I think, when they go out and buy lists and try to shove more into the top of the funnel, they really just have higher bounce rates rather than richer data about middle of funnel drop off and bottom of funnel drop off. And now we have more data that we can learn from to, again, perfect the experience for customers going forward.
Yeah. Again, you said it really well. It's all about clean data. So like, if your data is clean all the way down that cylinder, it works awesome. And that's, again, that's where the relationship and partnership of Snowflake and Tealium, I think, is that it works so well, and potentially explaining to someone is complex, but actually when it's working, it's so simple, and you just keep putting more and more into it. And if that data is clean all the way down to the bottom, which you can do now, and you could never do that in the past, at least in our sector, man, it works. It takes the load off, because the other side of it is if you give me 10,000 leads and I'm accustomed to dealing with 5,000, what does that do to my staff inside? Because like, it's not just customer experience. My employee experience needs to be really good too, and so I'm overworking them with less results. That's mentally daunting, like if you're only closing at 10%, like, what do you feel about your success in your job? I mean, that's not great. If you can get to a 30% closing rate, which is doable now inside automotive, that's high. You feel better about yourself too. And so like, that internal experience has to be just as hot. Like, we have to believe that that's important, just as the customer experience is important as well. So it does both at the same time.
It's thinking like that's why you're the man on top, because that's really, really important. Your employee health is key. And, any CEO can out there and can go and set gigantic numbers for everybody that everybody misses. And you got to think about that. People like to win, and you balance that. You give them the tools to do more with what they have. And it's people talk about that consumer experience, but the employee experience, right? Especially in a business that you guys are doing that has that personal touch. Yeah, you want everybody to be successful. You want everybody to feel the power of that experience. And really, there's no reason with what Tealium can do, with what Snowflake can do, there's no reason why we should just use that data for the benefit of your consumers. we should be using that data for the benefit of making your employees happier and making their lives better.
Yeah, totally agree. It's the whole ecosystem is making it better for everyone. And it's beautiful to see it, because you can't, like you said, from my perspective, yeah, I want to grow, but man, I got to get every one of my employees to buy into that. And it's only going to do that if it's better for them too, so, and it works. It just does. I mean, the marriage of these two tech stacks together, it makes experience better on both sides, internally and externally. So I love it. It's great.
Well, the topic of the webinar was around owning your data, and we're coming up on time. I want to ask you guys real quick, like, what are the top 3 benefits of owning and utilizing your data that you guys see? Just real high level to round us out.
I would say top 3. So, I mean, I think this is important from my perspective. Like, number one, when you own your data, it gives you a better way to control your expenses, which is huge. I mean, like, you can't just keep spending more, right? So owning your data lets you actively control your expense so that you're more efficient. So, like, I think it's, when I talk to other people in my role, we talk about expense control all the time. So, and everyone's trying to sell you something new all the time. And this Tealium and Snowflake, they give you the ability to actually get away from just spending money on advertising and not knowing what's happening. So it's a phenomenal expense control mechanism in terms of that. Number 2, I think owning your own data, it lets you provide customer experience at a whole new level. I mean, I in the State of the Union address that I did to my employees over the last couple of days, I talk about the difference between conquesting and retention. And conquesting for growth, it's part of business. You're going to do it. If it's the main part of your business, that's hard. It is hard. It's a hard way forward if you're going to grow your business through conquest. On the flip side, if you can grow your business through retention, oh, it's great. Like, selling happy repeat customers who tell their friends and family and neighbors about their experience, like, that is a great equation for growth. And so you probably want both at some level, but what percentage of each one of them is driving your business forward? If retention can have 50 to 60% and your conquesting is 20 to 30%, that mix, not only is that healthy, but it's profitable. And I think that's important to consider as well. And so by really trying to care about consumer experience, it's going to drive your retention model. It just is. And so when you own your own data, you're going to drive retention. Driving retention is for sure a great way to grow your business. Third, I do think that we just talked about this, but I strongly believe that by not chasing bad data, because that's what in my industry, we chase bad data. And all it does, it puts a heavy lift on every single person who works for me, because I'm just putting this daunting task of call them, email them, so on and so forth. It never ends. And your close rate on bad data is terrible. It's bad. I met with the CEO of Cars Commerce just the other day, and I told him, I said, I really don't want your third-party leads. I really don't want them. I want your data. If you give me your data and let it ingest into my system, I'll generate my own leads that are better than your leads. And he understands that, but he also says, well, I can give you both, but you still need to buy third-party leads because it's our business model. And I get that. But I truly believe that, If you like car industry standards right now, an HTML formatted closing leads is probably like 10 to 12%. We do a better job than that just because of our process and our partnership that we have through our CDP and with Tealium and Snowflake. We're probably 18 to 22, 23%. So we're doubling that. There's more there, but it's all about having clean data. You will always close and be more successful with better, cleaner data than you are with partial clean data, dirty data, chasing third party data is at some point, I don't think it'll ever be gone, but it has to be a very small part of your business because when you can actually start ingesting better data into this mechanism, of Snowflake into Tealium, that's first party data to yourself. And that is going to drive your success rate internally through the roof, which also increases the experience of your staff because you don't need as much and you get more. And I think that's really important. It's like we all want to grow, we all want to make more money and get better, blah, 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 blah. That's true, but it doesn't mean you need more leads. It means I need better leads, and owning your data drives better leads, drives better experience internally with your staff, so on and so forth. So those would be my three big ones so far.
I love it. I love it. Patrick, you guys at Snowflake, you guys are truly on the mission to get businesses out there to own their data. Talk to me about the big benefits that you guys see or the rewards you guys see in this area, because it's such a major shift in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously AI is massive right now, and there's a lot going on in that space. So I won't harp on that, but I think I do want to focus on some of the second order effects that we're seeing as a result of that, right? And so one of them you talked a ton about, Ryan, which is just data quality. In order to get the right results from any type of AI or advanced analytics initiative, you need to have quality data. And that goes back to things like data governance and provenance, understanding where that data came from, understanding along the entire data pipeline, like how that's getting managed and how that's getting brought together. And so that is a huge common theme that we're hearing increasingly from customers in every industry, is just the importance of data quality. Another key aspect is flexibility. I think we're increasingly seeing just massive changes in industries, how customers expect to interact with companies and organizations, how business is done. All of these things are changing so rapidly. And so this idea of being flexible in your infrastructure and how you manage data and applications is also a really critical aspect. And then the final piece, and you talked about it both from the concept of customers and for employees, but this idea of trust, right? I think one of the risks around AI that commonly happens is that, you're getting, can get bad results. And right, sometimes that's driven by, poor quality data, poor models. There can be a variety of different ways. But if you are simply using some of these advanced tools and not, understanding how you got there or checking those outcomes, you will start to erode the trust of your customers, of your employees, of your key stakeholders. So these are some of the big things that we're really hearing right now is, how do I improve data quality? How do I improve the flexibility both of my data infrastructure, but of my business in general? And how can I maintain customer trust as all of these things are changing around me? And so it's a big focus for Snowflake, obviously, in terms of how we work with both our products and our customers and our partners to drive that. But those are some of the big themes that we're hearing.
It's so great. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This is such an amazing way for me to start the day today. Ryan, Jeremy, really, really appreciate the time coming here. I can say I deal with a lot of companies out there, and I've been doing this. I've been in data. I've been real-time analytics since the late 90s. You guys truly at Rohrman Auto, you guys truly are a four-leaf clover. You don't see these very often, right? And when you do, you got to stop and double check. Is that what I saw? You guys are nailing it. You guys are really nailing it, and I'm excited to be partnered up. Patrick, amazing spending some time with you. I hear so much amazing stuff about you from inside the organization. I'm glad that we finally got to connect and spend some time together. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. This was an excellent webinar.
Great insights from Rohrman Auto Group and Snowflake on the transformative power of data ownership. Apply these lessons in your organization, and congratulations on completing the foundation track of Tealium Summer School. We hope this series has inspired you to think differently about your data strategy. If you're ready to explore how your organization can move forward with confidence, we'd love to help you get there. Thanks for watching, and don't miss out to check the sessions of our advanced track and enjoy the rest of your summer. Bye.